Hello and welcome to Crux Investor. We caught up earlier today with Peter Doyle, CEO and MD of Monterm Resources, an ASX-listed met coal developer and soon-to-be producer. We talk about the environment, a 1976 coal policy reinstatement, and a $5 million private placement. If you want our thoughts and opinions on those conversations, Peter and the company itself, you can find that at cruxinvestor.com/club. Where you can also find detailed company reports and analysis. There are summaries of other interviews that we've done to save you some time. There are training courses on there to help you with your own diligence process, plus commentary from experts from around the world on a variety of companies and commodities. You might enjoy that. Plus, there's a big thriving community of investors sharing their ideas with each other in a nice, friendly, and benign environment, free from trolling and abuse. Sounds nice, right? So go and join them at cruxinvestor.com/club. And we'd love your feedback too. So do give us a like, we appreciate it. Leave your comments below. We get back to absolutely everyone. And if you want to see precisely what we talked about today, do take a look in the description below. Peter, how are you doing, sir?
I'm very well, Matt. Thanks for having me on.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Happy Christmas, Happy New Year. It's getting a bit late for that, but we'll go with it anyway. Have you been well?
I have. I mean, COVID's not so great for any of us, but yeah, we're well.
Okay, good. Well, look, I've got very interested in met coal. You're one of the companies I spoke to last year. I think we spoke in the middle of November, actually. You kind of helped us with our voyage of discovery, how the coal market works. So thank you for that. But I want to come and pick your brains today. I want to help the people that watch these shows to understand what's going on. And obviously, we will talk about your company too, I promise. So before we do any of that, give people a 1 minute overview of your business, and then we'll pick it up from there.
Sure. So my name is Peter Doyle. I'm the CEO of Monterm Resources. We're a coal mine development company in Canada, in Alberta, Canada. It's met coal. 100% export, and we're reinvigorating two old mines. So we're restarting the Tent Mountain mine. We expect production early 2023. And then we've just recently delineated a large project at Chinook, and that's about 5 years away.
Brilliant. Okay, thanks for that. And I better explain for people who aren't members of the Crux Investor Private Members Club, you've also been helping us understand the macro environment for coal, which is fairly interesting dynamics at the moment. So I think the club members have really enjoyed that. And, you know, for people who aren't in there, obviously, I think people don't really understand. Well, there's a lot of misunderstanding around met coal, coking coal, steelmaking coal versus thermal coal. And I think you explained on the last interview some of those differences. So I'm going to put the link to that conversation below. Go watch that because you're really good understanding, or certainly enough of understanding to get interested. So I saw something last week which intrigued me because I didn't know quite what it meant. So the Albertan province has reinstated a 1976 coal policy. Is that good or bad for you?
Oh, look, Matt, it's an interesting time for the coal industry in Alberta. So the 1976 coal policy is an overarching document that was put in 1976 that categorized different areas of land and what could be done on those bits of land with respect to coal mining. Monterm Resources assets predominantly sit in what's known as Category 4. So there's 4 categories. Category 1, no mining. Category 2, predominantly designed for only underground mining. Category 3 and 4, it's okay for open cut mining. Category 3 is on the prairies. Category 4 is in what's known as the eastern slopes of the Rockies. As I said, our assets are in Category 4. When the 1976 policy was put in place, these mines were open, they were working, and therefore they've got an area around them, a sort of halo of where open cut mining was in 1976 allocated to be able to be done and continues to be that way. So for Monterm, you know, we're of course interested in how a new policy may come about because the government said it's going to go out and consult widely on this topic to understand that. I think that'll take some time. Of course, we're interested in being engaged in that consultation, but for us right now, Category 4, our assets are largely immune from any change.
Okay. So what's happened between 76 and now? Why reinstate it? I mean, what's been going on?
Yeah, so the current government rescinded the policy in June last year, and they rescinded it on the basis, I believe anyway. I wasn't involved in it at all, but I believe they rescinded the policy on the basis that it was superseded by much more modern legislation and regulation that goes with that legislation around land use. So Alberta's divided into areas, and they have regional land use plans within those areas, and that describes what can and should be done in various areas. As well as that, there's a very detailed and rigorous regulatory, both federal and provincial regulatory system that controls and regulates all mining, coal mining, diamond mining, copper mining, doesn't matter what mining it is. But for coal mining, any new coal mine in Canada needs both federal and provincial approval. So, these various layers of regulation about land use had superseded the policy. EIAs back in the 1970s were fairly, they existed, but the new science, of course, is just more modern, and rigorous regulatory systems align with that science. So we study the land, we study the effects of what we believe is going to occur with the mining, and then we put forward an environmental impact assessment based on those studies. And then the various regulatory bodies, as I said, federally and provincially, assess that.
So 1976 through to 2020, everyone knew what was going on. Then last year, for some reason, they decided to look at it again. And then 12 months later, decided to look at it again. Is there, what's going on the ground that we need to be aware of?
Yeah. So what's going on is that in June last year, they rescinded the policy without consulting, and it became a flashpoint issue. And now the government has rolled back that decision. They've reinstated the 76 policy and said, their intention now, I believe, is to go and consult on the issues of coal developments and other mining developments, all mining developments really in Alberta.
But is this politics? What's it being driven by? I'm intrigued by this because when we talk about Canada as a great jurisdiction for mining. That's what we talk about. People say, well, don't go and look at Africa. Don't go and look at South America. You got to look at Australia, Canada, and the US. Those are the jurisdictions to be in. But what's happening in Alberta?
It's a very good question, Matt. I think that what you said is true. Those Western domains are great jurisdictions to own and operate assets in. And one of the reasons they're great is because they're democracies. And I think this is political. I talked before about the regulations and the rules that we have to abide by as a modern mining company. And I would stand by and say that we, as a company, have a very strong record environmentally, and will continue to do so. And part of it's because of who we are, and part of it's because of where we operate. The current situation is definitely political. It's an emotional topic. There is a very valuable resource of metallurgical coal, steelmaking coal, particularly where our assets are in the Crow's Nest Pass. There is one large project there called the Grassy Mountain Project that's owned by Hancock Prospecting. That's gone through 7, maybe even longer now, years of work to get it through to where it is now. They had a very detailed 3-year process of a public hearing. The public hearing was the final part of the 3-year process. That completed earlier this year. It's finished. And now they're going into 6 months of deliberation. So in a way, the completion of that public hearing brought the topic up into the public domain really, really quite brightly. And it's now the stage is set, but there's no one up at the lectern with the microphone. And so the public's, it's become a very public debate. I believe that the Grassy Mountain Project will get approved. later this year. And it'll be approved with, stringent conditions on what is able to be done.
Okay, I was about to say, so we'll shine a torch on that in a bit, because they'll have had to pass various regulatory, environmental controls and measurements, and they're going to have to put the paperwork on the table, which says that they are doing things the right way, legally, right? Mm-hmm. I want to come back to the contentious issue. Is the contentious issue we just don't want miners in here because of what they represent in terms of removing minerals from our environment, or is it because, and I've had a lot of contact from people going, these coal miners, they pollute our rivers, they're damaging our ecosystems. What do you think the problem is?
Well, I think it's a combination of both those things. So firstly, it's a hot topic on the basis of people are believing that it's open slather and that we're going to build coal mines that are, destroy a special ecosystem and destroy the entire lot of it, and that we won't be responsible miners and that we won't remediate sites. That's not the case, or that's not our intention. Our intention is to be responsible miners, to abide by the rules and regulations and laws. And one of those is bonding. At the front end of a coal mine, you have to put up a pretty significant cash bond that's held by the government, and that cash bond lives for the life of the mine until the rehabilitation's completed. And the second one is around selenium and selenium management. Selenium, a heavy metal that it's in rock. It's not in the coal specifically. It's in the rock that's around the coal. As water flows through that rock, it dissolves effectively the solid selenium into a liquid. It's a leachate actually, and it goes out in the water, and it can affect the wildlife and environment. And so it's our job to stop that happening. And there are really three different methods that are now well known on how to complete this. And it's part of our initial mine plan is to put in a sophisticated water management system that mitigates selenium leachate leaving the site. And for the Tent Mountain mine, it's an existing mine. It's a degraded site. It is leaching selenium right now into the watershed. It's at moderately low levels, but it is above the threshold, slightly above the threshold that the government wants. And so our initial plan at Tent Mountain is to put in a water management system that captures that leachate and doesn't let it enter the watershed. And we'll do that for the life of the mine, and then we'll remediate the mine. So by actually going and mining Tent Mountain again and pushing through and getting the job done, we will remediate the site to a modern level and actually, believe it or not, improve the environment that currently is there.
So you'll make it better than it is today, because you've inherited a situation. You're
Correct.
saying it's part of the deal is you will leave it better than you found it.
That is exactly our plan, Matt. Yes.
Got it. Okay. I like the part of, if you don't know it's broke, you can't fix it. So that people are aware of the issue. And again, what's the genesis of this? Because this comes from somewhere. Have there been other instances where other companies have not been responsible? Is that what people are reacting to?
I would hesitate on the not responsible. So leaching selenium into the environment has, as I was talking about before, the modern science. It's a relatively newly understood phenomena, like in the last 30 years. So right next door to where we operate on the divide, on the continental divide. So Alberta water flows through Alberta and eventually into the Hudson Bay. Water that drops just on the other side of the border in BC flows south into the US and ultimately into the Pacific. It's a large mining district dominated by Teck Resources. They've been operating mines there for some of them over 50 years. They have removed overburden without knowledge of selenium when they started 50 years ago and how it could affect the environment. And so the problem got away from them. They've been doing a lot of work over the last decade or slightly longer, 15 years, to work out how to mitigate that. And they're getting great success. They actually advertised it only 2 days ago from their what's known as saturated rock fills, which is a method of stopping the selenium, and they're getting great results from that. And they've committed to spending over $1 billion to try and clean up what has been a legacy of previous mining. So I wouldn't say that it's irresponsible. I would say that they know about it. And just like most things, when engineers and scientists understand a problem, or the scientists understand a problem and they hand to the engineers to fix it, the engineers get after it and they do fix it. And I think we cop a lot of flack about being, some sort of 19th century industry. Come to a coal mine. Come and visit a modern coal mine. There is some of the most high-tech, cutting-edge technology employed at these coal mines that exist. And similarly, some of the brightest minds work there. And, so these problems can be, I guess, ultimately mitigated, right? So we look at risk and we try to stop it before it exists. And that's the main method, is to stop the leachate ever occurring. But once it does occur, there are methods for pulling it back out of the water. And that's what Teck's doing. And that's the third phase of what we'll employ at Tent Mountain and Chinook.
Okay, so but you do understand where this emotion is coming from. People have reached out to me off the back of our last conversation with you, and they sent me photographs, and it looks stunning. Alberta is stunning. It's gorgeous. You can understand why they're concerned that might be being damaged. Ecosystems might be being damaged. It makes sense, doesn't it? You would. Yeah,
no, I completely agree, Matt. I mean, the beautiful mountaintops of the Rockies and the wonderful ecosystems that exist there are, stunningly beautiful. And it is our job to operate mines in those areas, such as is being operated in BC, in a manner that is akin to managing what we do to minimise the environmental impact, and to do it in such a way that it's sustainable and that it's respectful, and that the stewards of the land, the First Nations people, and the ranchers and the outdoors enthusiasts can accept it in that it is what represents prosperity, right? In some ways, developing these mines, mining through these deposits, and then remediating the sites appropriately is the modern mining method. And, this coal is incredibly valuable. There's been a lot of sort of discussion about how much Alberta gets out of it. Well, if Grassy Mountain was to go ahead, and Tent Mountain and Chinook, we'd be spending around about $1 to $1.5 billion a year in the local economy. There would be significant taxes, significant corporate taxes, significant local taxes and provincial taxes, as well as royalties, which start at 1% and then go to 13% of the revenue at the mine gate revenue. So they're not insubstantial. But it's more about the jobs, right? There's several thousand jobs to create here, and then those will last 20 to 30 years, and really invigorate the local economy, which is in a depressed state right at the moment.
No, I get that, Peter, but I think it's just really, really important that you come head on and say, we are going to create value. We're going to create, pay our taxes and royalties and create jobs, and the money will ripple throughout the local environment and economy. It was brilliant. But you, as a CEO, understand and give a damn about the concerns around the ecosystems, and you as a company are doing everything that's at the forefront of science that a company like you can do to mitigate or eradicate any potential damage, because they'll say that's priceless. People local say that's priceless. You can't put a dollar number on that. So can you look me in the eye and say, yeah, we have got this?
Of course, yes, I can. First off, it's the law, and second off, it's who we are as a company. Modern Resources is run by people who love the outdoors. I'm a super keen fly fisherman. I grew up fishing rivers in Australia. I came to Canada 15 years ago and started fishing here, and I've been living here 5 years, thoroughly enjoying the outdoors. I think that part of the reason I'm in mining and I'm a geologist is because I do love the outdoors, and we don't just destroy everything. It's not the current method. We do dig a big hole in the ground and we fill it back in and we remediate the site. And that is not just what we need to do to be responsible miners. It's also the law, and it's what we believe is the right way to go about our business. We will use the most modern methods to certainly limit the downstream effect of our mines. But you can't get away from the fact that we put a big hole in the ground, and the remediation of that site begins about a year after we start. I mean, we put in some mitigating factors at the front end, but then as soon as we create a hole behind us, we start filling it back in and we start to remediate that site. We will, particularly at Tent Mountain, be employing some pretty ingenious modern methods for that remediation. First Nations will be heading that, involved in that. And we hope to remediate that site back to, a centerpiece standard that people can look at and go, actually, these guys did what they said they were going to do.
Okay, well, great. I guess the proof's in the pudding. Saying's one thing, doing's another. I look forward to seeing you. I think you're going to have to communicate to people. As you say, I get that. I like the open invite. Go to a modern mine. I think that's interesting. But you're going to have to get communicating to people and show them and share with them how this all works. Right. I actually called you up to talk about your company as well. we got sidetracked. Right. Because the other thing I noticed was a scoping study on Chinook. You can't tell us too much. The Aussie rules are quite strange. So what can you tell us?
So we have been working on the historical information on Chinook. It's just there over my shoulder. Old mines, 3 old mines north of the town of Coleman. We know there's a lot of coal there. We've got 150 million tonnes of coking coal resources there. We think there's quite a bit more there than that. We need to do some more exploration to bring the certainty up or bring the underlying resource status up. But we did a study over the known area where the old underground mine at Vickery is, and north of that heading up towards Racehorse. It's an impressive mine. It'll have a long life, be a large scale open cut mine. It's 15 kilometres from rail. It's right next door to Riversdale. It's about 5 kilometres from Riversdale point to point. It's very, very similar size, similar economics, and we're really excited about it.
Okay, but when can we start seeing more information from what's going on there? Because there's a lot of work going into the scoping study, right? Yeah. So when do we get clearer on numbers, timing, money, etc.?
Yeah, so we need to do another season of drilling. So we are in a trading halt right now. We've gone out to our existing shareholders and new institutions to raise money for that exploration. That's going really well. I expect us to come out today. We've raised just over $5 million for that exploration. And we'll go and do that this summer, and then at the end of that, we'll be able to produce the scoping study as it stands now with a lot more geological certainty, and therefore put forward the impressive NPV and IRR and cost base and that sort of thing. And this is the regular process of exploration. This is not greenfields; it's brownfield development. We know the coal's there because it used to be mined and sold to the Japanese steel industry. They like the coal; they want more of it. and it's the pluses and minuses of owning historical resources, right? We know the coal's there and we're excited about it, but it doesn't quite meet the modern reporting standard that JORC and the ASX require. So we've got to go and drill it out.
Okay, which requires money. You've just done a private placement. How'd that go?
Very well, yeah. We got some new institutions on the register. We're really excited about them, 3 groups particularly. Existing shareholders also got in behind us. So we're really excited about it. We're in a trading halt right now as today. By the time this comes out, I expect us to be retrading, and we're excited about it.
Okay, and that's going to be enough to get you through the rest of this year doing what you want to be doing?
Correct. Yeah, we came into the year with $3 million in the bank. We've raised just over 5. That's a drilling season, and we'll get the results out at the end of this year. And then the other big sort of focus of the commercial group in our team this year is attracting a customer to become a joint venture partner at the Tent Mountain mine. So that is when the real rubber hits the road, Matt. We attract that customer to partner with us in developing that mine. That gives us guaranteed offtake, gives us a great equity plug into the company, and it'll give a look-through value for shareholders that will be much closer to the NPV of that project, and should really quadruple the value of the company.
You just pick up the old Glencore Rolodex, don't you? Is that how that works?
Well, Mark does. Yeah, look, it's not just Mark Lochtenberger and myself. Bob Bell certainly has an extremely good relationship with our customer base. And some of our really significant shareholders are also helping with that. So some very well-known coal mining people in Australia also are on our register and are happy to make introductions and help. So we're pretty close to the customer.
Good. Okay. Well, it's a good start to the year. Looks like you know what you've got laid out in front of you. So one last question. You're talking about getting into production at Tent Mountain 2023. What's the only thing that can stop you?
Oh, I think the permitting and obviously financing and markets are really all that is left in front of us. So we're trying to work on all 3 of those things. We can't really control the international coal market, but it's on fire at the moment. If we were operating Tent Mountain right now, we'd be making $100 million US a year EBITDA. So just off a modest little mine of just over 1 million tons. With permitting, we're in the gate. We're advertising right now the terms of reference for our EIA. We expect to put that in July. The full application into government is a very long, stringent, detailed public process. So the public get their say. At the end of that, we get permitted middle of next year. A few months to order equipment, get it on site, build the prep plant, build the rail, siding, and production starts thereafter.
Easy. No problem.
Click with switch, Matt.
No, I'm all right. Peter, thanks so much for the update. Appreciate you taking the call and being so candid and honest. I do appreciate that, okay? Not everyone likes being asked those questions. I thought you answered, okay? And I'm looking forward to seeing what's happening over the next few months with great interest. Stay in touch. Speak to you soon.
All right, Matt. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.